Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of Supernatural Moriah. And it was worse than I thought it was gonna be. Now granted, the overall premise of what occurred and what it would be setting up would be better done if it was better executed and better written. I mean, at least they didn't screw with the lore of the Archangel Blades and stuff like that. I can at least put that into effect, but it kind of got onto such a meta level that it felt like the writers were essentially throwing a tantrum and that this has become their end goal. It's really kind of weird. Okay, so let's get into what happened. We start off where we left off. We see Jack glowing eyes. He force pushes everybody and bucks off. And we're like, okay, he showed a level of restraint that not a lot of people would have had in that kind of situation. But he's off. They're trying to figure out what to do next. And Jack is just walking around and he hates that he hears all these people lying. And he says, stop lying. The world kind of shifts, and then we see that people aren't able to really lie anymore. It's a little bit of a thing. And I think that this part kind of went on a little bit too long. Kind of funny gags and everything, but it kind of really didn't fit with what we needed to do, which was bring a conclusion to this and set up for what's going to be the final season. So we see that Sam and Dean have gone off to this facial recognition place to find out if they could get the whereabouts of Jack that way. Cass, of course, is gone off to try and go to hell and figure out, like, study the cage so that way he can make a cage for Jack, because he's not happy with Dean and Sam pretty much going on the warpath of just killing Jack outright. It's really kind of strange that we've gotten to a point where Cass, granted he does have a bias on this fact, is in the better kind of state of being like, listen, he isn't a monster, where Dean is just completely all in. He's a monster, he's a monster, he's a monster. For that rationale, he should have friggin' domed Sam aeons ago, no matter what. But here we are. So, let's do Sam and Dean's bit first, because that doesn't get into the important bits that intersect with it. They're going through and they're trying to do their usual FBI stick, but Dean can't lie. So he actually goes up to the desk, says that his name is Dean Winchester and he's looking for the Devil's Son. Kind of funny, says that the badge is fake and all that, but then we start seeing this whole tech company go into a complete and utter meltdown mode as nobody can lie and everybody's saying horrible, horrible shit. They go into a room and see that we get a President Trump joke without it being President Trump's name dropped, saying that he went on to a press conference, talked about his ties to North Korea and Russia, and said that he made a deal with someone called Crowley, which is okay. I like the Crowley name drop bit, but other than that, it doesn't really add much. I'm like, okay, fine, we're supposed to laugh. Continue on. So they're trying to figure out what's going on, and Sam's like, everything's going into meltdown mode. His funny little moment is that his actual true favorite singer is Celine Dion, where he usually says it's Elvis Presley. Okay, it's kind of funny. And we see that the demons are not going to let Cass into hell, and he turns around and we see that Chuck has popped up. And he's saying, okay, we need to get this situation under control. It's like, oh, cool. It's about time. So they go off to Sam and Dean, and God's like, okay, we really have to deal with this situation. He's like, okay, everybody's lying. Well, and Dean's really hammering in on him, and he's like, don't. All right, let's get into a better place. And he warps into the bunker, and he's saying, listen, we have to take care of Jack because he did this with 2 words. Like, yeah, that's a pretty big thing to think of. And of course, he starts showing him all the stuff of people being unable to lie, and he's able to switch that back real quick. And he's like, okay, Celine Dion rocks. All right, I can lie again. All right, a little bit of a funny humor, but the thing is, Dean's really kind of, I mean, granted, he will do whatever he needs to do, but if it's a family member, he will usually fuck them over out of their own, like, that be their best interest to do something or to let something go, and no matter what, kind of pulls them in. So it's like, okay. God's like, okay, we need to kill Jack. Only way to do that is this, and he shows a gun that can essentially do quantum kind of effects. He simplifies it down to it will do, whoever fires it at something, it'll kill them both. Essentially tying them together. Granted that, and he says it can kill anything. Anything. And, of course, everybody's going, why didn't you just pull this out then if you had it? He's like, because I just made it, and he can make it do whatever he wants. I'm like, it could kill anything. It's an interesting thing to kind of tell them. So they're trying to figure out what's going on with Jack and where to find Jack. Cass doesn't want to be any part of this issue. Dean's, of course, trying to tell Sam about what he's going to do. And he's like, I'm not signing off on this. I'm mad at Jack. I don't really want to kill him. And if you want me to, like, sanctify your choice or whatnot, kind of screw you on that kind of thing. And goes out and starts talking with God. Really starting to hammer in on the like whole multiverse, how we learned that there's a universe of squirrels and everything, but that Sam and Dean are the most interesting kind of TV show thing to him. Really starting to hammer in on this kind of meta thing, and we're just essentially a TV show to you. And of course, God had let it be that he's like, hey, I'm a writer, all these kind of draft things. We see that kind of popping up effect because he brought that up. Well, Cass brought that up. And saying about like writers lying and everything. So that starts bringing into problematic effects. So we see that God was like messing around with the Archangel Blade and saying that it had been a while since he'd seen that. He also brought up that, hey, I'll let you guys do what you want. You want to mess with Leviathans, cool. You want to mess with the British men of letters, okay, cool. But getting them to do their effects. We see that Cass is able to get to Jack, and he's frustrated. Jack had went to see his grandmother, and she hammered in on him about lying and all that. And we thought that he killed her, but no, he didn't. He just flashed his eyes and ran away. And he's talking to Cass. He's like, all I've ever wanted to be is good, and I just keep failing. And Cass is like, it's fine. We'll find someplace safe for you, and we'll fix this. And it's really kind of strange that Cass has to be the voice of reason in this effect, because usually everything's a little bit more even-tempered. I don't know if that's supposed to be done because of what God is kind of starting to do. But we get to the point that Dean's getting there. He's getting ready to aim at Jack. Cass is standing in the way. Jack force pushes him out of the way. And he goes and says, I understand, I'm a monster, and Dean looks like he's going to do it, but if Sam and God show up, God trying to egg him on to do it, but Dean decides not to, and God's pissed off because he wants this to be like an Abraham-Isaac situation and all that. And he's like, no, screw you, I'm not doing that. And then God kills Jack by himself, seeing him do that. This pisses off Sam so much that he goes for the gun and shoots at God, but doesn't get a kill shot in, but hits him in the shoulder, and of course it does the same thing to Sam. He then goes, fine, you want it? Here's the end. He snaps his fingers, the world goes dark, and everything starts breaking loose. We see demons and shit coming out from hell. We see zombies and all kinds of monsters coming out into the world. I'm like, so I like that God would be an antagonist in this part. We also got an update that Amara is also in the world as well. That could be brought up later on, because I think we're essentially going to be getting a Dark Avengers kind of initiative to taking out Chuck. Now, granted, I am only making essentially Avengers comparisons because it's a lot out, but I also see that they've made a lot of kind of references, and it kind of makes sense that they've essentially made him a kind of Thanos kind of dude of being done with this story and wanting to be done with it. Cass, of course, brings up the line that God being a writer, he's been lying, so he, of course, is able to kill Jack like that. and they're surrounded and having to try and survive their way out of all these hordes of monsters and everything. My biggest issue with it is how it started going down and what was going on. I'm glad that Dean pretty much came to his senses at the end. I don't know if that was due to the influences of God, wanting his story to go a certain way or whatnot, or what have you, but I'm glad that Dean got back to his usual kind of self. God even promised to bring back Mary if he killed Jack. Weird enough, though, because that's not really a cool kind of consolation prize, because Dean would die in the same attempt. It's really weird. You would almost go like, why would I use a gun that would kill me and the thing that I'm trying to kill? And then you're trying to give me something. If Dean dies, wouldn't it be better if his mom was dead so that way they're in heaven together? And the logic that people could have went at him with, you just started tearing him down and all that. But the reason I bring up the Avengers kind of issue is because, alright, we've got Amara in play because she evidently likes Kino. Woo! Because she's in Reno or whatnot, and evidently okay with all this shit going on. We see the episode ends that Jack wakes up in the empty. We don't know if he is completely righted. I mean, I don't know if his soul is burnt off and then it comes back when he's killed, but we see that the empty creature comes up and draws a smile on his face, and then we see Billy comes up and says that we have to talk about this situation. God had talked about in this episode that he preferred the other death because this one keeps putting her sight into situations that she really shouldn't be. So Billy could have essentially been orchestrating this into an endgame scenario where she gets to reap God because God's allowing a lot of crazy-ass things to go on, like the Leviathans, British Men of Letters, the Apocalypse World, and the Apocalypses and everything, because it's entertaining TV to him. It's almost like the writers are going, okay, you're tired of this show, so we're just going to throw all this shit into the fan and go with it. Now, I kind of like this because this means that Jack is more of a good guy and still on Team Winchester, but again, it's how it is happening or what's going to be happening. All of these threads have great potential. I really don't have faith in the writers to execute it. I swear, watching this episode felt like the writers throwing a tantrum where, okay, you don't like what we're doing? We're going to do the worst kind of shit possible and see how that goes for you. That's the feeling I get. Granted, fighting an angry god is pretty much a very good endgame scenario. How we got there and how that's going to handle out is going to be where the biggest questions lie. I mean, Jack got dusted by him. The only one who could really take him on was Amara. And Death, because Death will eventually reap him. So they're going to have to get Amara onto whatever side's going on. Hopefully Billy actually gets to the Winchesters and explains what's going on and actually gets them through into situations. It goes back to plot dictating character actions. Now granted, some wiggle room that we've at least got some character interactions back with, like Sam getting really pissed off and not going through with this and actually shooting a gun. He was actually pretty much in his character throughout that thing. And I'm like, yay. Dean getting back to his character, good. We know that Billy usually goes for her own goals and usually tries to stick with the Reapers, staying in a balance and understanding what balance means with life, death, and like the whole multiverse thing, which, okay, we'll have to see how she works that out and how Jack and potentially the empty entity were going to be thrown into that effect. It's going to be a weird hodgepodge team to take out God. So I'm glad we have a clear villain for the next season, because it's going to be kind of iffy on how they take him out. But I don't know. Granted, I did not expect it to go this way. I expected that we were going to get Jack as pretty much the antagonist and have that go through. And that was kind of the more expected route. Now, granted, I understand that this is plot twist, but the power of a plot twist only really happens on the fallout of those consequences. So we'll have to see how next season happens out. It's definitely going to be a ride. I don't know how they're going to do like one-off hunting episodes or contained episodes, because this setup does not lend those episodes very much credence, especially since you have 20 episodes left to end out the series. If that's the case, I want a nicely structured, character-driven end goal to what's going to be going on. Like, every episode needs to mean something and either show a character's development towards something or back to something, like going towards something or digressing back to something. Like, it has to have a purpose in every episode. You can't just willy-nilly and half-ass it on this point. This is what people are going to remember the most. Hopefully, they have that in mind. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.